to Black Girl World Traveller podcast season 2 episode 3. This episode is all about Puerto Rico. So let's get into it. So if you listen to this podcast and you decided to travel, I hope it's domestic. The best option is to stay home, but for all my travelers with an itch to just go ahead and do it, if you're thinking about traveling to Puerto Rico, you might want to listen to this podcast to learn about how to do so safely, and well, maybe not safely. If you're watching this video on Black Girl World Traveller YouTube, you will see that I have a splint on my hand because I did sprain my finger while in Puerto Rico. But nevertheless, we're here and we're gonna talk about Puerto Rico. So let's get into it. So I stayed at the, let's talk about, before I even talk about where I stayed, let's talk about like Puerto Rico, like when you arrive. I can honestly say that you feel like you're in the Caribbean. It's just, you know, the colorful houses, the humid, dry heat, the friendly people. You definitely feel like you're in the Caribbean. I was just like, oh my god, I'm so happy to be here. And I decided to go to Puerto Rico because it was extremely cheap. I think my flight was $79 round trip, which is super cheap. Don't quote me on that price, but I know it was, no, my flight was $129, but I have seen round trip flight prices for as little as $79. So I decided to go to Puerto Rico because technically it is a part of the United States. Well, it's a colony of the United States. And so it goes along with my theme of traveling locally. I'm not willing to go to another country at this time, simply because I would not feel right if I were to bring coronavirus to another country or, you know, take it back home. So I'm all about domestic travel. So Puerto Rico was the cheapest destination. So I said I'm hitting the road, and I went. So I used Airbnb for my accommodations. And the place where I'm staying is called, was called Mont Caribe House. And it's definitely only used for Airbnbs. It's like a regular house that they've like divided up into several apartments. And it was only 10 minutes from the airport. That wasn't intentional. Whenever I look for Airbnb, I look for 3 things: price, 5-star rating, enhanced sparkling clean. So the enhanced sparkling clean feature means that they have it committed to a rigorous cleaning process. So, and especially during COVID times, that's really important. You know, that you're staying in sparkling clean places, and that they're just spotless. So that's really important to me. So Mont Caribe House had all those things, so I decided to stay there. And when I arrived, everything was literally spotless. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was flawless. And for me, I don't like rushing when I have to like get ready to leave a place. So the fact that it was 10 minutes from the airport was really convenient for me. So I checked in, everything was sparkling clean. I didn't feel like I had to do another clean. I didn't feel like I needed to like go get some Lysol wipes and wipe everything down. So I just, you know, inspected it, and then I, you know, did the usual, got unpacked, all that good stuff. And then I went to El Vagón, which is a restaurant in Santurce. So Santurce is right outside of the main capital city of San Juan. And I had their fish tacos and margaritas, which were so good. I was drunk from, I think, 2 margaritas. And the fish tacos were phenomenal. They have like kind of like that faux Jamaica vibe. So it's like the reggae music in the background, and it's outside dining, of course. Everyone wears masks, they take your temperature. And it was really nice time. I think it's a great place to go solo. You can definitely tell though that it's packed during like peak dinner times. So try to go a little bit before. I think I went around 5 o'clock and I got a seat immediately. And it definitely helps si tu hablas español. I am fluent in Spanish. I was actually thinking about doing this podcast in Spanish, but because I have to get it out so quickly, I'm not going to be able to edit both the Spanish and English one, but a Spanish podcast might be in the works. I don't know. But anyways, El Vagón was amazing. And yeah, that's just pretty much how I ended my day. I decided to walk. Whenever I go to a new place, I love to walk and just explore, see the colors. So I, of course, quickly regretted that, because y'all know the Caribbean, even if the sun isn't out, it's still hot. And I was like sweaty, but it was fun. I got to see like the movie theater, some castles. It was nice to just kind of walk around and take in the city at my own pace. Especially when you don't have expectations. Like when you're not going anywhere, when you're not trying to do something, it's just nice just, you know, just to walk around and see what's up. And I like San Juan, and I could definitely tell when I crossed the border into Santurce. And so yeah, I really enjoyed it. So the next day after I got in, I actually had planned to go to El Yunque. However, so let me tell y'all this story. So I got all ready. So El Yunque, for those of you who don't know, is San Juan. It's not San Juan. It's Puerto Rico's rainforest, where you can do hiking and all sorts of cool water activities. So I got a call, text, Airbnb message literally 30 minutes before the excursion was supposed to start. Mind you, I had already woken up early. I had done everything that I needed to do to prepare for the trip. I had bought snacks and everything. 30 minutes before I get a call from the Airbnb host. Oh, I'm gonna have to cancel because the other people in this group cancel, and I'm not gonna make any money if I just take you, so I'm not gonna go. I was thinking to myself, you fucking capitalist bastard. First of all, that is so unprofessional. If I'm scheduled to meet you at 10:30, don't call me at 10 o'clock talking about you're canceling the excursion. Especially, I don't care if those people canceled at 9:55. There's just certain things as a professional that you should do. And if you're only profit driven in what you do, your business model is flawed and you're not going to last in business long. Puerto Rico relies heavily on tourism. So once this pandemic ceases, and as the pandemic slowed, because actually Puerto Rico had opened up a lot more once I had arrived, you could have made that money back that you were supposedly not gonna make, or that you supposedly lost from people that canceled. That was fucked up, and I was so upset. But whenever I travel, I always commit to having a good attitude no matter what. The world could come to an end and I'm still gonna think positively. Okay, maybe not the world comes to an end, but I just want to reiterate that when you're traveling, it's okay to just brush it off. Normally I'm just kind of, I would like harbor on it or think about it. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just still have a good time. So he canceled on me. I'm already at the meeting location, and actually I don't think it was 30 minutes before, it was actually 15 minutes before, which is even more fucked up. But that's neither here nor there. I decided, you know what, I'm gonna take these groceries, I'm gonna go back home, I'm going to the beach. Now I stay in a neighborhood called Ocean Park in San Juan, and in Ocean Park there's a beach called the Ocean Park Beach. So I dropped my groceries off at home. I made a little breakfast, which I didn't have time to do before, and I walked a 9-minute walk and I went to Ocean Park Beach. I turned my phone on airplane mode and I just enjoyed my time at the beach. It was absolutely amazing. And that was honestly the highlight of my trip, just being at the beach with no one. I had 2 beers, 2 medallas, which is medals, I believe, in Spanish. That's a brand of beer that came in my refrigerator at my Airbnb, and I just drunk the beers, had a salad for lunch, and was just chilling. That was like honestly one of the highlights of the trip. So I tried my best to turn, you know, an unfortunate situation of being canceled on 15 minutes before the excursion was supposed to start, to spending the day at the beach, enjoying myself, and just floating in the water. I just like floated like a little angel. And that was my Friday. That was my first full day in Puerto Rico. Just spent it at the beach. And yeah, I would recommend you do the same. That night I headed to Bebos. Bebos is a cafe and they serve like typical Puerto Rican food. You'll see a mix of locals and foreigners at their restaurant. It's like it's not cheap, but it's not expensive. It's like a regularly priced restaurant. $15 to $20 for like an entree. The calamari was phenomenal. I had mofongo, which is a traditional Puerto Rican dish that is based in plantains. Plantains are similar to bananas. Plátanos en español, pero no me gustó. I did not like it. It just, I don't know, it wasn't good. I do think that like a nice arroz con habichuelas y con pollo, chicken, rice with beans and chicken would just have done the trick. And the calamari was good too, but I did not like the mofongo I had at Bebos. But Bebos is, I think I definitely would recommend it as a place for you all to go if you are visiting San Juan. And I'll definitely say I was surprised because Bebos is on Calle Loaiza. I think I'm saying it right. Which is like a main strip in San Juan. And I was surprised at how little I was being catcalled. Now, as a black woman who's a solo traveler, I'm just used to a certain level of harassment. Unfortunately, it comes with the territory of being a solo female traveler, especially a black female traveler. Men will think that you're a prostitute. They'll think you want to sell a variety of sex services to them. They just think that they have the right and the access to your body, which obviously is disgusting on a variety of levels. However, I 100% support sex work. 100%. I do not support catcalling unsolicitedly. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm gonna say it. I do not support unsolicited catcalling and other forms of verbal harassment as women walk down the street. I 100% support sex work. I respect sex work. It is a hard job, especially when you're having sex with men, because men are, whew. But yeah, I was surprised that I felt like on guard. I'm always on guard as a traveler. No matter where I go, I feel like I have to be on guard. Just because of the experiences that I've had with men catcalling. And I wasn't experiencing that. I'm not gonna say it didn't happen. It mainly happened late at night. But it didn't happen. It really did not. And I felt safe. Felt 100% safe. Puerto Rico is very safe. But that's one thing I did take notice of. And it's funny because as much as I love traveling, you know, some may think that traveling puts you at like heightened danger. And it's ironic that I felt more safe in Puerto Rico than I did, you know, walking in my own neighborhood. Because I could walk around my neighborhood and count on 2 hands the amount of times that I would be catcalled. But for my entire stay in Puerto Rico, I can count on 1 hand how many times I was catcalled. So it just goes to show you the respectful culture. That's one thing you can definitely tell about Puerto Ricans. They're very calm, they're very nice, and they're very respectful. I've been to a lot of countries in Latin America, and I can honestly say that Puerto Ricans are they are probably the nicest Latinos I've met. Which was like shocking because, it was shocking because, you know, I'm from Philly, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans here, but, you know, they live on the mainland. And then when you go to Puerto Rico, the actual island, you see like similarities, but like the differences of the Puerto Ricans who grow up and live in the mainland United States, and then those who live back home on the island. So that was something to note. So that pretty much wrapped up my stay. I did, you know, get some alcohol at the local farmacia, and I just walked home and I got drunk, and it was the best thing ever. So that's another thing. You can get liquor anywhere. You don't have to like go to a grocery store, like a state-run store. You can get it from a pharmacy in Puerto Rico. And that pretty much was my first full day in Puerto Rico. And then that night, I rebooked another trip, another Airbnb experience to try to go to El Yunque again. So the next day, it was a Saturday. I woke up early, met the same location that I was supposed to meet this other Airbnb experienced person, and this time it all worked out. We met up, got in the van, and we were off. I will say that in order to prepare for El Yunque, looking back, there's some things that you should know if you are considering this excursion. So you want to definitely eat a hearty breakfast. I like eggs and fruit. If you don't eat those two things, eat something that's gonna fill you up, like bread, something heavy, but don't eat so much that you're full, but you just want to eat enough to where you feel satisfied. And I don't know if there's a difference between satisfied and full, but just don't overeat. You must douse yourself in sunscreen and bug spray. You're going to the rainforest, you will get bit up if you don't. I didn't, because I like literally doused myself. There was not a place on my body that did not have sunscreen or bug spray. I definitely recommend bringing hiking shoes, not boots, but like Chacos or Morel is another brand, or Tiva, or even like a regular gym shoe that you don't mind getting soaked with mud and water. That's something you should know. You will be soaked in mud and water. It's no avoiding it. No matter which company you go with, you are gonna get wet. And for that reason, I say to bring very, very little on your trip. So like your phone, a credit card, a bottle of water, and cookies. All of those things besides the water bottle can fit into a fanny pack. You want to keep it simple, especially if you're going to do the tour that I did with my specific tour guide. He purposely took us on a harder route, and we got muddy and wet, and I ended up spraining my finger. So those are three things. So eat a hearty breakfast, wear hiking shoes or standard gym shoe. You can wear water shoes, but they don't have the traction is not really that great on water shoes. Like you'll be stepping on rocks and stuff. So, but water shoes are great because you will get extremely wet. There's just no escaping it. There's water everywhere. And definitely number 3 is to bring very little on your trip. So if you want the information for the Airbnb experience, please check out my website at blackgirlworldtraveller.com. I linked my full entire itinerary there, and that way you can just look at the you can look at the itinerary and see what I booked. My specific tour guide was an asshole, but he did make sure that we had a good time. It was an adventure. Like he purposely made us go down holes, muddy holes that we didn't have to go down, and climb places that we didn't need to climb. But it was a part of the adventure, and this experience was $70, so I do feel like I got my money's worth. And that took about all day. We left our meeting point in San Juan at 8:30, and we didn't go to eat till around 4 o'clock, and we ate not too far from El Yunque, actually by El Luquillo, which is another really nice beach in Puerto Rico. We ate at this restaurant called Don Pepe's, which was like traditional Puerto Rican food. This is where you need that credit card I told you about. But the food was just okay. The service was not that great. And again, it was like another touristy place, $15 to $20 per meal. I got regular like rice and chicken. But yeah, the food wasn't that great. It was just okay. The drinks were pretty good, and that was a good time. That's another thing about when you do an Airbnb experience, you meet other people. So there were 6 other people on the trip. So there were 3 couples, and then there was solo me. So we got really close on the trip because, you know, when you go through or have an experience with other people, it just bonds you to them. So like one of the women I met, she owns a boutique, and she actually ended up like falling while we were like climbing, and me and her husband like grabbed her up. Like we weren't gonna let her fall. We kind of just like looked out for each other like the entire time. I will say that I did have an experience with fear on the trip. So one of the things that you do is you swing on a rope and then you land in water. That's pretty cool. That's pretty standard. And then you can have the opportunity to jump off cliffs. One is like 10 feet high. I did that one. I posted that on my Instagram. Another one was like 17 feet high. And then another one was like 30 something feet high. So originally I only did the 10-foot one. But everyone kept saying, you know, like when we hiked further up, you know, people were encouraging me to do the 30-foot one, y'all. And I got all the way up there. Like I got up to the top and I could not jump. And I felt like a failure to everyone in my group that was like rooting for me to do it. But I had let fear, I guess, overtake me in that moment. Now, I personally didn't feel like a failure in that moment because I just didn't want to do it. And I'm not the type of person that's just gonna do something because other people want me to do it. In fact, it's like the opposite. I'm like, I need to do this because I want to do it. But I can't lie, I felt like a failure when I didn't jump. Especially like the women on in the tour, they were all rooting for us so hard. Actually, there was more than just those 6 people. There was also like another group of girls. But like the 6 other people, they were like the core group because that's who we ended up eating with after at the restaurant at Don Pepe's. But anyways, back to fear. I regretted it so much. No, I didn't. I don't regret it. I just felt like a failure. So as we hiked back from the restaurant, I mean from the cliff back, you know, to the entrance, I did jump off the 17-foot cliff in order to redeem myself. So I felt kind of better, but I was like, you know what? It is what it is. Fear, but one thing that I learned was that fear is all in the mind, and it can and will overtake you if you allow it to. Because now that I think about it, I could have totally done it, but I just let my mind get the best of me. So take from that what you will. Life on your own terms. Like if you don't want to do something at the end of the day, don't do it. Like I feel good with my decision, but I also feel like a part of me like kind of regrets it. But anyways, after Don Pepe, we ate, we talked. It was like good vibes, you know? Oh, let me get back to, before we talk, we end this Saturday excursion, we need to talk about how I busted my damn hand. So remember I told you that tour guide we had, and Yunke was an asshole, how he purposely took us on harder routes. I fell. I bust my ass. And I fell on my hands to try to like, I don't know. That if you gonna fall, just take the fall, y'all. I mean, I think subconsciously I was trying to protect probably my face. But this was a really muddy part of Yunque, and I just fell on the way back to the entrance, yeah. And at first I was like, I'm okay. And I was like, well, I think my hand is spraying. And then the guy who helped me up, he said, can you move it? I said, yeah. He was like, oh, it's not broken. So I was like, but let's keep going. Again, that mindset, nothing's going wrong with my trip. I'm gonna just keep going. But it's been a couple weeks since I was in Puerto Rico and my hand still hurts. So I did get a splint, which you can see if you're watching from YouTube, if you're watching and listening from YouTube. If not, I am wearing a splint to keep my finger straight and to alleviate some of the pressure that I feel. But no regrets. Yunque was definitely the highlight of my Puerto Rico trip, another highlight. So that pretty much, once all that happened, we got back. And actually one of the couples that I told you guys about drove us home, drove the rest of us home. So that was really nice. Well, drove myself and another couple home. It was really nice. I met lovely people in Puerto Rico. They were just great. They were just dope. And that's the beauty of traveling. You meet people that you never would have met otherwise. When would I have ever met a couple from like Gonzales, Louisiana, and learned about, you know, this woman's boutique? By the way, check out Tia's boutique at Shop H Kyle on Instagram. So yeah, that was dope. So that was day 2 in Puerto Rico. So my last full day in Puerto Rico, of course I have to visit Old San Juan. So because there were no free walking tours, normally there is, but age of COVID, you know, things are different. Like after a Yunque, I'm on vacation. I probably would have wanted to go out and, you know, go salsa dancing or go smoke hookah or something like that. Couldn't do any of that. because in Puerto Rico from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. there's like basically a shelter in place mandate. Like you can't do anything. So again, went home, had a little adult beverage, and just called it a night. And the next day I woke up and took myself on a walking tour, a self-guided walking tour of Old San Juan. Now, Old San Juan looks nothing like the rest of San Juan. It's colorful, it's, you know, it looks very much historic. You hear salsa music blasting everywhere. And of course you have like castles. You have San Cristobal Castle, what's the other one? San Felipe. And you have these just like old structures from historical, you know, colonial times of San Juan. So that was really good. So I just took myself on a self-guided walking tour. If you want to see the routes, again, head to blackgirlworldtraveller.com. You'll see the exact route that I took. And then I ended up eating lunch at a Spanish location. Now, y'all know, if you're an OG of this podcast, you know I love Spain. Like, Spain will always have a place in my heart. So I ate at this typical Spanish restaurant, and the food was great. It's called El Rincón Ibérico. And yeah, I had tapas. Tapas are small plates of food, and I would definitely recommend the garlic shrimp. It was phenomenal. And the calamari, yes, I did. The calamari is pretty good too. And sangria. I got a half a jar of sangria that I downed all alone. And I left that place really drunk, I will say. So alcohol is kind of like a theme here. So El Rincón was phenomenal, but by the time I finished that, I was exhausted. El Yunque wore me out. I love the scenery of Old San Juan, but I was like, I'm ready to go. Because once I know I'm tired all the time, I'm ready to go. So that pretty much was my trip to Old San Juan. And then I pretty much had the day to myself. It was very, very hot that day. And so I could have spent it at the beach, but honestly I like to spend a lot of my time while traveling relaxing, and this is a time I started writing in my journal and reflecting on everything that was going on. So that's how I spent my last full day in San Juan. The next day it was time to wake up, eat breakfast, clean up the Airbnb, and then head back to the airport. So overall I would say that Puerto Rico is a phenomenal travel destination. It's a phenomenal vacation destination, and it's just a phenomenal place to be around good people. That's one thing that I'm taking away from my trip to Puerto Rico, is phenomenal people. And I can honestly see why people love Puerto Rico so much, people from mainland United States, because it's a phenomenal place with great friendly people. And especially during these times where we need to stick together, I love that camaraderie feeling. And I also love that everyone wears the damn mask. Please wear your mask. Please stay safe in whatever way you know how. And I will see y'all on next week's episode. Peace.